Today's video is going to be very special because the theory that we are going to study today, I have been influenced by him a lot. During my MA, when I was studying about him through an article, I was reading an article through a website. I was I was so amazed reading that article, and somehow I felt very emotional. Why? Because he was such a person, he could not show concern to his family who was starving to death due to financial crisis he was facing along with his family, but he was concerned about the poverty, the poor people, the labor class, the working class. I hope you have got an idea that whom I am talking about. Yes, Karl Marx. Why I am discussing this? Because Marxist theory has been led by him. It is based on his ideology. Why his family was starving to death, I was so deeply influenced because of his thinking, and I will definitely make a separate detailed video on his ideology, his thought perception that he has showed to world. I was really inspired by what he was thinking. Somehow we all have in our life facing the issues in every aspects of life due to the capitalism every day, right? And that capitalism, since that era till now, you all have experienced how it was. So that is why I wanted to discuss this thing very deeply. So in this video, we are going to discuss about that, the Marxist literary theory, how it started, who was the founder, what was the ideology. Karl Marx has been expelled not from Germany, France, England, his own country where he was born, but many countries due to his ideology, his thinking that he showed in his book. He shared his concern that there should not be any differentiation, there should not be any bourgeois or proletariat type of thing in this world. Some of people later influenced, like we have Terry Eagleton and Antonio Gramsci, and then you can say it was like initially his thinking was based on political philosophy, but later how it entered into a literature we will study today. Okay, because from his perspective that he has given, how literature influenced and we study in literature the Karl Marx theory. This is what we are going to discuss. Okay, so in the question form I have prepared the notes, you will like definitely, and then please tell me, and if need I will definitely make a separate, I will actually going to make a separate video on Karl Marx. We will discuss everything in this video, and I know many of you must have been influenced by Karl Marx ideology, right? So let's see. Do not miss, do watch till and sharing is caring. Do follow the ideology of Karl Marx, at least to show some concern for your teacher, the one who is preparing and doing a lot of hard work for you. So share to everybody. Let's start the class. So just as I told you that Karl Marx has influenced many people because of his ideology and his thinking, his concern. He was the person that the most important and the most influential thing I found about him, that instead of showing concern towards his family who was his children who were starving to death, he was living in a closed space in a single room with a lot of how I should define, in a rented apartment, rented flat. That person in that situation, in such a tough situation, who did not leave his ideology, he stick to that, and because of that, he has been expelled from the many countries. So here is the question: think, who benefits when reading literature? Ruling class, oppressed class, or revolutionary consciousness? Who benefits? The question was simple, that he wanted, along with his actually he was influenced by Hegelian theory. Hegelian theory. And he, along with his friend Frederick Engels, they both wanted to remove the discrimination, the capitalist term from the society. By removing this, they both wanted to bring the equality in terms of economical view. They both wanted to establish a classless society in which everyone would be equal. There will be no master and no slave. So this was the line, this was the ideology of both. Okay. So, what is Marxist literary theory? Marxist literary theory is a social, political, and economical philosophy based on the ideas of 19th century German thinkers. We have Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Through the lens of socio-economic conditions, class struggle, and material realities, we can say they share their ideologies. There should not be any inequality between the capitalist society and working class people. It examines, Marxist literary theory examines how literature reflects, just because we are having a topic of literary theory specifically. So we will focus on that specifically, okay? But to make you explain and to make you understand, in between, I will discuss the ideology of Karl Marx. So do understand. So Marxist literary theory we use in our literature to examine how literature reflects, reinforces, or challenges the power structure of society, particularly the capitalism. Okay, so here you can say, according to Karl Marx, capitalism versus working class is ideology. Working class. Okay, then in short, you can simply understand capitalism is unfair because it takes advantage of workers. How he explained very clearly, workers are the people who workers are reason behind all the profit of a company. Still, they receive a very less amount, and all the profit and all the revenues goes to the person, the owner. Okay, so this was the idea. Karl Marx was against this. So Karl Marx was against this, and one day the workers will unite to build a fair system that it will be called communism. Communism, according to Karl Marx. So capitalism is unfair because it takes advantage of the working class people, who became the reason behind all the advantage, all the profits of a company of the owner. But still, they receive a very less amount as a form of salary, and all the profits goes to the sole ownership, sole through the company or the owner only. So if the worker will unite, they can build a fair system that will be known as the communism. Okay, do remember. So core idea in literature, you can simply understand, literature is a product of social economic context shaped by the ruling class ideology. In movies, you can take the example of Hard Times, Great Expectations, many other examples we have, that in which novelist writer has showed the economical conditions of the characters, the people. Okay, so you can take the example like this. Who started this? Marxism or Marxist literary theory. Who started? So Karl Marx was the reason behind this, and along with Frederick Engels are the founders of Marxism. They wrote the key works like the Communist Manifesto 1848 and Das Kapital 1867. They were talking about all to analyze society, economy, and class struggle in society. Class struggle, okay? Their ideas were not literary theories at first, but philosophy, economics, and social critique. It later, how it entered into a literature, I will tell you. So do understand that how Marxism began in literature. Marx and Engels argued that every society has two main parts. Okay, and what is that? Base, that relates to the economic structure. That means means of production, factories, tools, land, etc. And it shows the relation of production, now how classes interact, owners versus workers. So that is the base. So Karl Marx relate base theory to the bourgeois, who hold the ownership of land, factories, raw materials, etc. Okay, so it also forms the relationship between the capitalist and working class. Here, capitalist and working class. So, base is the economical structure, and without base, superstructure cannot exist. Okay, we will discuss this later. Then another one we have superstructure. Superstructure is related to the cultural ideology, philosophy, politics, everything, laws, religion, art, literature. So according to him, superstructure is man-made. Man-made. Okay. How? Because superstructure holds law, religion, political ideology, social, culture, education. All this thing is created by man. So as per his ideologies, superstructure and base shapes each other. Without one, the other one won't stand. Okay, so both are interrelated and shapes each other. This is what he talked about. He also said that base and superstructure are the two interrelated concepts in which Karl Marx, in which he described base as the means of production and superstructure as all other aspects of a society. Okay, so Karl Marx further discusses that superstructure always reflects the ruling class, their beliefs and their interest. Okay, superstructure is no doubt is the part of society that always legitimizes base when the exploitation of the proletariat or working class. That means on the basis of how bourgeois class exploit the working class people. So this was his thinking, exploitation. And on the other hand, base is occupied by the bourgeois, which consist of the elements like you can say, just we have discussed. Here it is also given machinery, materials, land, factories, and other resources that also include the labor. That also include the labor. Okay, so this is the difference between the, not the difference, but this is the interrelated concept of base and superstructure. And this is how in literature it is started, because in literature we study about society's economical background, characters background, their economical, their status, their society, owners, workers, their interaction, how they interact, both superstructure and base. There we see the difference between laws, the ideology, literature, religion, everything. So that is what he is talking about, and he said that, and it started in literature. So here the key idea would be that literature is part of the superstructure. So it reflects the economic and social realities of the time. In his, in all the work we have seen how throughout the time, throughout the ages, all the writers have tried to represent the society's phenomena of that time. So here it is some work you can find on the basis of economical class, some work you will find on the basis of social, that depicts the social realities, and some works you will find the uh, and some works will show you the plight of the characters. Okay, so this is what the difference between. So this is what and how superstructure and base shapes literature and shapes each other also. Now another, what Marxist literary theory is. So Marxist literary theory is basically or is an political or philosophical ideology brought by Karl Marx that studies literature as a social and historical product, not just a part only. It focuses this theory focuses on class struggle, oppression, and ideology, and also this theory asserts that literature can reveal, reinforce, or challenge social inequalities. By watching movies that is based on the social inequalities, reinforces that reveal something of the societies, we somehow influenced, we feel influenced, we inspired. So what do we think that this should not happen? Okay, so this is what he means. Now this point is very important. Initially the Marxism is famous, popular because of Karl Marx ideology and Friedrich Engels theory perspective. Later, this concept was developed by many influencers of Karl Marx who has been inspired by his ideology. And who are those? So we have George Lucas, Raymond Williams, Terry Eagleton, Louis Althusser, and Antonio Gramsci. There were so many, but majorly we study about them in literature. So George Lucas, 1850, George Lucas, realism and class consciousness, he depicts by influencing, by getting inspired by his ideology. Raymond Williams talk about cultural materialism and the structure of feeling. Terry Eagleton talked about modern Marxist criticism, ideology in literature. Louis Althusser talked about ideological state apparatus and structural Marxism, and Antonio Gramsci gave the concept of hegemony and cultural domination through the concept. Okay, why it's important? It's important because it shows how literature is shaped by society. It helps understand hidden ideologies in text, and it also encourages reading literature with a social, economic, and political lens, not just in the form of aesthetic. Okay, so that this is what, in the form of question answer, I have tried to explain you what is Marxist theory in literature and why we study. Okay, because it shapes literature, it depicts society through the literature, and critics uses this theory to analyze the work, to criticize the work. Okay, you can remember the example of great expectations we have, hard times we have, pride and prejudice we have. There are so many work example you can remember. Okay, now let's go to the next. Now, another important thing that we have to remember is core concept of Marxist theory. There are so many concepts that this theory has given, and the first and most important, we have base and structure. Base and structure. So base is related to this economical structure of a society that relates to the means of relations of production, labor, materials, land, owners, and superstructure is based on the ideology, culture, political, and institutions that is shaped by the base. All these things. Okay, class struggle. What is class struggle? Class struggle, history and literature are driven by the conflicts between classes. Classes we have, since ancient era, we have seen this difference between the upper class, lower class. Like in the four castes, the people were divided. You remember, if you in India, if we were talking about, if we talk about the Brahman, the Shudra, the Shaurya, and the Vaishya, the upper caste was supposed to be the Brahman category. So they never allowed the people who were belong to the lower category, allowed them to enter into temple. They never allowed to enter into their houses. Okay, so from there we are observing these differences. So that is the class difference he is talking about. Bourgeois is the versus bourgeois versus proletariat. Now bourgeois is the people who has ownership, okay, who has everything, and the proletariat is related to the people working class. You can simply understand working class. Then ideology literature can serve as an ideological tool promoting ruling class interest or challenging them. It dominate ideology serve the ruling class, and literature may enforce or challenge it. So ideology is basically what and how people got affected by this idea of Karl Marx. Alienation, individuals are alienated under capitalism. Capitalism is a big thing in society. How people influenced because of their money to the people, not only the ordinary people, but government. We all know, we all have experienced. So literature may depict this estrangement from labor, society, or a self. So people are under the influence of capitalist people, capitalism. Historical materialism in the sense that literature must be analyzed in terms of historical and material conditions of life, not just aesthetic but personal creativity. So, Marxist theory predicts a progression through different stages of economy. In their view, the first one that we have seen, primitive communism. Primitive communism is the very first how human, from the, we can say, from the very first when we humans started exploring the world. Then slavery came, then feudalism, then capitalism, and later socialism, that is followed by communism and classless society. So remember, Karl Marx wanted a classless society, everybody. He wanted to create communism. He wanted to bring equality in the society. There should not be any differences on the basis of economic. This was the main thought. He he majorly thought that the profit that a company earns. Instead of only the sole person hold this profit, why this should not be distributed equally to all the people who are working in that company, working in that factory, equally divided. This was his thinking. Now, role of literature we have. From here we have to see major theorist. Major theorist, the first one we have Karl Marx. Karl Marx, he led the foundation of Marxist theory and emphasized class struggle, materialism, and ideology. These were the basic things by him. He introduced base and superstructure and ideology. He exposed how ideology serves the ruling class and literature reflects economic and social conditions. So this is how, because of his this thinking, this Marx major Karl Marx ideology enter into literature because we study our literature, we study our work on the basis of economic, we judge the work on the basis of economical or social conditions of the character or the society that we see in the work, that writer depicts in the work. So major works he has given: the Communist Manifesto 1848, co-authored with Friedrich Engels; Das Kapital, very important, 1867, Critique of Political Economy; and Economic and Philosophic Manuscripts of 1844, that is the Concept of Alienation you will find. Then Friedrich Engels we have he emphasized literature as reflection of economic and social structures, and he said that role of material conditions in society. He talked about the role of material conditions in society, and also literature should be understood within historical and economical context. Major works, if you remember, The Condition of the Working Class in England, 1845, and The Communist Manifesto with Karl Marx, he co-authored. George Lucas, the later influenced George Lucas, he developed the critical realism, very important, and also he emphasizing the totality of social life in literature. He talked that literature and class consciousness. He talked about the literature and class consciousness and realism, and he advocated realism as a form revealing class consciousness. Okay, then the major work you can remember by him: History and the Class Consciousness, 1923, and The Theory of the Novel, 1916. Okay. Karl Marx's theory was majorly, you can say, popularized by Friedrich Engels. Antonio Gramsci is the major theorist in this because he introduced the cultural hegemony, which is very important. It is also appeared in the December 2000. I was solving December 2023 questions. Okay, remember everybody, December 2023 PYQs series is already started and the first video is already uploaded too. You must watch and let me know if there is I'm lacking. I will improve and add more detailed explanation. Okay. So cultural hegemony showing how literature helps maintain ruling class dominance. Hegemony, that means the ruling class maintains power through cultural and ideological consent, and he stressed the role of intellectuals in the shaping ideology. And the most important work by him you have to remember: Prison Notebooks, 1929 to 1935. What he has discussed in this work, we have already seen. In prison notebooks there is a question that what he has discussed. So he has discussed about the culture, he has discussed about the power, political. So this is the thing, not about the prison or any other emotional thing he has discussed in this work. So do remember. Louis Althusser, he focused on ideological state apparatus, that is ISA, and analyzed literature as part of ideological reproduction. He introduced this ISA in the institutions like education, media that reproduce dominant ideology, and also he reinterpreted Marx through structuralist theory that is called structural Marxism. So structural Marxism is a PYQ related to Louis Althusser. Okay. Major works by him: For Marx, 1965, and Lenin and Philosophy and Other Essays, 1971. Then another important literary theorist we have Raymond Williams. You know, Raymond Williams is very important for the exam perspective. Everybody do not miss him. So he introduced the cultural materialism, linking literature with everyday life and social practices. Remember, very important, cultural materialism. He developed cultural materialism and he coined the term structure of a feeling. Coined the term. Who coined the term structure of feeling? Raymond Williams. The lived experience of a social group. Okay, the major important works you can study and remember: Culture and Society 1958, cross-check the year. Marxism and Literature 1977, The Long Revolution 1961. Okay. Then another theorist we have Terry Eagleton, who popularized Marxist literary criticism in the modern age. He explored how literature operates as ideology, and the key works you can remember: Marxism and Literary Criticism 1976, and another one, Literary Theory and Introduction 1983. This work is very important. Okay. Now let me show you the few PYQs that which type of questions you can face from this section. So let me show you, and also before that, let me show you the example. Charles Dickens' Hard Times, how literary Marxist literary theory is used in this work. So by using Marxist literary theory, in Hard Times, the critics criticizes industrial capitalism, exploitation of workers, and social inequality. Remember, very important. In George Orwell's Animal Farm, you will find the allegory of class struggle and power dynamics. Okay, criticizing the ruling class tyranny. Emil, Emily Zola, Germinal, you will find here the realistic depiction of proletariat life and class conflicts in coal mines. Bertolt Brecht, you have the Three Penny Opera. It is a drama emphasizing capitalist exploitation and social injustice, and Shakespeare's Coriolanus that we can be read in terms of class tension and power structure. So these are the examples that in this sense, remember, in this sense, Marxist literary theory is used to criticize the work on the basis of these theories. Okay. Now let me show you a few questions that you will understand. So this type of question you will see in the exam, everybody. The first one, match the terms in list 1 with those in the list second and select the correct answer from the codes given below. So first one we have ideological state apparatus, B structure of feeling, C class consciousness, and D hegemony. First one here critics George Lucas, Antonio Gramsci, Louis Althusser, and Raymond Williams. So you just have a seen you just have understood what everything is, so you can immediately and quickly find out the answer. Structure of a feeling, you can take it to the Raymond Williams, so B we can go with the 4. Then ideological state apparatus, ISA, we can take it to third, so A with the third. Okay, so we can find here. And class consciousness, we can take to George Lucas, so C with first, and the last one hegemony, option 2, D, we can move to the second by Antonio Gramsci. So this type of question you must remember. So option A would be the correct answer. Another question, who among the following critics introduced the concept of base and superstructure in relation to culture and society? Louis Althusser, Karl Marx, Raymond Williams, and Friedrich Engels. So base and superstructure is the first concept that is introduced by none other than Karl Marx. Okay. Then another one we have the concept of ideological state apparatus was introduced by Antonio Gramsci, Terry Eagleton, Louis Althusser, or George Lucas. So ideological state apparatus is introduced by option C, Louis Althusser. Okay, do remember. Now let's see the another question. Hegemony, meaning dominance maintained through consent rather than force, is associated with option A, Raymond Williams, option B, Antonio Gramsci, option C, Karl Marx, and option D, where it is George Lucas. Correct answer, hegemony, you can take it to Antonio Gramsci. So option B is the correct answer. Now another question we have. Who among the following coined the term structure of feeling? George Lucas, Raymond Williams, Karl Marx, or Terry Eagleton? Structure of feeling. So it is coined by Raymond Williams. Okay, Raymond Williams. Another question we have here. Realism reveals the totality of social relations. Is a view associated with option A, George Lucas, option B, Karl Marx, option C, Louis Althusser, and option D, Raymond Williams. So realism that reveals the totality of social relations is a view that is associated with the option A, George Lucas. Okay, do remember everybody. Now another one we have. Who among the following is known for the idea that literature operates as ideology? Karl Marx, Terry Eagleton, Antonio Gramsci, and Raymond Williams. Correct answer? So correct answer of this question would be option B, Terry Eagleton. Remember, literature operates as ideology is a idea by Terry Eagleton. Is an idea by Terry Eagleton. In this idea, Eagleton argued that literature both reflects and reinforces ideology, acting as part of the cultural and the superstructure under capitalism. Then another question, let me show you. Which of the following pairs is correctly matched? Ideology, Karl Marx; reification, George Lucas; hegemony, Antonio Gramsci; ISA, Louis Althusser. So all of the answer is going to be correct because ideology is a concept by Karl Marx, reification is by George Lucas, hegemony is by Antonio Gramsci, and ISA is by Louis Althusser. So correct answer would be option D. Okay. Ideology, it was explained by Karl Marx. Reification was introduced and discussed how social relations are objectified under capitalism. So by George Lucas. Hegemony, Gramsci's concept of cultural hegemony shows dominance through consent, and ISA, that in this Louis Althusser introduced ideological state apparatus to explain ideological control in the society or the people. Okay, so this is the Marxist theory. I hope you have liked the video, everybody, and let's meet in the next class, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Do take care of yourself, and bye bye.